during Thursday, and some rain in the north with some strengthening winds as well. We'll see the back of any overnight wet weather across southern parts of England. It will brighten up here, and it looks generally dry and quite sunny across much of England and Wales during Thursday, but still in chillier air here, so temperatures around 8 or 9 degrees. So a bit of a messy transition over the next 24 hours. Chance of some rain, colder air moving in, but by the time we get into the weekend and through the rest of the month, high pressure will return and it's back to dry weather once again. Sophie.
Darren, thank you very much. And that is it from the BBC News at 6. It is time now to join our nations and regions for the news where you are. Goodbye.
Thanks, Sophie. Welcome to Wales Today. I'm Rebecca John. The headlines. Wales delay naming their Six Nations team to face England with a players' walkout still possible over contracts.
I think with the uncertainty of what was happening, and there's been a lot of meetings and things going on, so just wanted to make sure we got clarity.
The turmoil in Welsh rugby intensifies tonight. A team announcement delayed, a training session cancelled to allow the players more time to negotiate as the deadline to find a resolution edges ever closer.
It's known as the Welsh Riviera. Gwynedd Council buys private homes in places like Abersoch to tackle homelessness.
I think it's time we investigated what's going on here in Wales.
Meet Emily, whose undercover investigation has discovered a catalogue of failings on public transport for disabled people. And plans for a new National Football Museum of Wales come a step closer with more than £5 million of investment. Noswaith, good evening. The crisis in Welsh rugby meant more disruption and delays for the team today, just days before the Six Nations match against England. The game remains in doubt, with players threatening to strike in a dispute with Welsh rugby bosses over contracts. The Wales players have set a deadline of tomorrow for the issues to be resolved. Thomas is at the Principality Stadium for us. Thomas, what hope is there of a resolution?
Well, normally the week leading up to a Wales-England match will be full of intrigue, but this year talk of team selection and tactics on the pitch has been overtaken by talk of chaos over contracts and 11th hour negotiations to try to avert strike action. Now, this week's plans were up in smoke earlier today. The team announcement planned for this lunchtime delayed until Thursday, and this afternoon's training session in front of the cameras cancelled. Now, head coach Warren Gatland said that he hoped that a resolution will be found today. Well, as the light is fading fast here at the Principality Stadium, that seems increasingly unlikely tonight, and it seems that negotiations will continue into tomorrow. That's deadline day set by the players. Who would be a Wales coach? Warren Gatland had no team to announce, no certainty of a game this weekend, but still faced the cameras. He's hopeful of progress, but also says the players' threat to strike is real.
A bit of a whirlwind in terms of being challenging, so look, you've got to accept what you're faced with, and you know, hopefully, like I said, we can get some resolution today and concentrate on the game when we come back to training on Thursday. I'm hearing positive things from both sides, yeah. So you know, hopefully the discussions will be acceptable to both sides in terms of making some sort of compromise, and we can get on with the game.
The players trained this morning, but there was no session this afternoon to allow last-minute negotiations. The main sticking point, the way contracts are put together. Proposals would see players earn a guaranteed 80% of their salary. The rest would potentially be earned through bonuses, but that would surely see players earn less. So much time has been devoted to off-field matters just days before one of the highlights of the Six Nations, with coach Warren Gatland conceding that the players have been involved in around half a dozen meetings over the last few days.
What the players were asking for, I think, was definitely reasonable in terms of, and there needed to be some negotiation. It's like everything, it's, you know, you've got to find some middle ground, and I think hopefully that, like I said, that the discussions today, there'll be some middle ground where the players are happy with, and the professional game board will be also happy with, you know, some of the concessions that they make as well.
In the England camp, no such distractions. Our neighbours have been observing the unfolding crisis from afar.
We do think the game will go ahead, and we're preparing like that. Obviously, it's not nice what's going on for the players, what's going on in their camp, and that's why they're taking the action that they are. And hopefully that all works itself out for everyone, and it'll be a good game on Saturday. Everybody that I've met from that Wales squad and everybody that I've got to know has never been unreasonable, and I'm sure they're not being now. I'm sure they're doing the right thing by them, and as I said, hopefully it gets sorted.
So will the fierce rivalry be reignited this weekend? Gatland insists if the matter is resolved, the players will be in the right frame of mind despite all of the chaos. A deal must be found at the 11th hour, or the threat of postponement may well become a reality. And I think it's worth pointing out that head coach Warren Gatland also revealed that there are no contingency plans should Wales players decide to walk out and refuse to play England here on Saturday. So as it stands, we're not expecting a resolution tonight. So the talks will continue right up to deadline day, right into tomorrow. Meetings are scheduled tomorrow afternoon. But make no mistake, Welsh rugby is on the brink. And as it stands tonight, the game here on Saturday is still in doubt. And the £10 million in lost revenue is still on the line.
Thomas, thank you. The rest of the day's news now, and more disruption is expected to ambulance services as 2 new strike dates have been announced by Unite. Unite members of the ambulance service will take further strike action on the 6th and 10th of March. It comes as some workers took part in a second day of strike action in the ongoing dispute over pay. Members of the GMB union were on strike yesterday, while Unite staff walked out today and will do again tomorrow. The Welsh Government says it's drawn together all the available funding to try to resolve the dispute. North Wales Police have announced they're investigating 27 misconduct claims relating to 24 of their staff. 13 cases relate to violence against women and girls, including sexual misconduct and domestic abuse. Police misconduct reports have been commissioned across the UK after the case of the rapist and former Metropolitan Police officer David Carrick. The North Wales Chief Constable, Amanda Blakeman, says the force is committed to removing offending officers. Welcome centres, which have housed Ukrainian refugees in Wales since the beginning of the war, will gradually close. The Welsh Government confirmed the closure was part of a concentrated effort to help Ukrainian people move into long-term accommodation. It says those who can't find accommodation will be offered an alternative option, but one MP says there needs to be a comprehensive plan to house them if centres close.
There are no plans to end the Homes for Ukrainians scheme. So hopefully people will come forward and perhaps people will find, accommodation out in the community. But you can't make a policy declaration like this and just hope that something will turn up. There needs to be a comprehensive plan about moving people out into the community and also sustaining the welcome that we already provide.
Gwynedd is home to some of the most expensive houses in Wales, but now the local council is buying houses on the so-called Welsh Riviera to tackle homelessness. It's already bought 8 houses across the county, with plans to buy 100, including in the seaside resort of Abersoch, from where Brendan Williams now reports.
Abersoch, one of the most famous villages on the so-called Welsh Riviera. Home to Wales's most expensive street last year, it's a second home hotspot with property prices skyrocketing in recent years. If you wanted to buy one of the prime properties here right on the beach, the chances are you'd need a couple of £1 million spare. Well, clearly the council is not looking in that price range, but even so, is it right to spend £300,000 on one property in one of the most expensive areas in the entire country?
We have to try and home Abersoch people in their own communities, yeah? Morally, that's why we exist, that's what we're here to do. Now, we're using as many different tools as possible to do that. One of them is to buy properties in Abersoch because local people cannot afford to buy properties in Abersoch. So it's one of the many things we're doing. It's definitely justifiable, but yes, it's an awful lot of money to spend on one house.
The council has bought or is buying homes in Abersoch, Nevin, Pwllheli, Llanbedr, Llanberis, Tywyn, Festiniog and Barmouth. The scheme is being funded by the controversial decision to force second homeowners to pay 150% more council tax than residents. Councillors say local people are being priced out of many areas and the county now faces a crisis with nearly 700 people homeless. As well as building new houses in the long term, the local authority aims to buy 100 homes to rent to people from the area and admits it doesn't know the final cost. Whatever the figure, is it money well spent?
Obviously the locals do have a right to live here, and it's sad that they can't afford to live here anymore. But then it's questionable about how the council can afford to buy houses in Abersoch.
It's taxpayers' money, isn't it? So if you can't afford something, I think it's a lot of money for the council to spend just that people can stay somewhere where they wouldn't normally be afford to.
I think it's good that they're buying houses for people that are in need, but I feel that more should be done on the planning side to let people actually be able to build houses.
Come the summer, holidaymakers will always outnumber residents in places like Abersoch. But the council hopes its home buying policy means, little by little, more local people get to enjoy this too.
Still to come on the programme. Joyce Cox was 4 when she was murdered in 1939. Now, the last person to see her before her murder speaks publicly about it for the first time in 84 years.
And we haven't seen the last of winter with colder winds and lower temperatures on the way. But will there be any snow? Join me later to find out.
An undercover investigation by BBC Wales has discovered a catalogue of failings on public transport for disabled people, from special assistance not turning up to help people off trains to a lack of space for wheelchair users on buses and chairs not being secured safely in taxis. Emily Nicole Roberts has been investigating.
Everyday tasks for wheelchair users can be tricky enough, but throw in problems with public transport and life can be made unnecessarily difficult.
I think it's time we investigated what's going on here in Wales.
I wanted to see how hard it would be to travel to Cardiff to meet my friends, who also use wheelchairs. At Swansea Station, the special assistance team helped me onto the train. But when I arrive in Cardiff, the help I booked hasn't turned up. And when I get into a taxi, the driver failed to strap me in safely, as his licence requires him to do. My friends had problems travelling too. Linley Gregory has been a wheelchair user for 8 years after fracturing her spine.
You just want to go out and as and when you want to, and you just can't. Everybody has to be warned beforehand, and it's just difficult.
At Aberdare train station, there's a rail replacement bus service, and again, the pre-booked special assistance hasn't turned up. Matt Bassett was a teenager when he injured his spine in a swimming accident.
We want to travel as well, and because we are just humans after all.
In Pencoed, Matt had no problem getting on board a bus, but there's another issue. Even though the bus is almost empty, there's only one wheelchair space, and that means another wheelchair user can't get on.
They probably send a taxi or something, I don't know.
There are laws in place to protect disabled people on public transport. Buses, taxis and train staff have a duty of care to protect and help us. In response to our investigation, Dragon Taxis say passenger safety is their #1 priority, and they've addressed the matter with the driver who didn't secure my chair. They've also referred the incident to Cardiff Council's licensing team. First Bus Cymru say they work hard to deliver the best and most inclusive customer service possible. They say their newer buses include a separate buggy space that can double up as a second space for wheelchair users. And Transport for Wales told me our investigation uncovered that online bookings for special assistance weren't going through to the stations.
It's provided us with an opportunity, one, to apologise for the experience that the passengers received, but also to say that we've now identified that issue and we've put a fix in place as a result of the outcome of the filming.
For Baroness Tanni Gray-Thompson, a lifelong campaigner for disability rights, none of our findings of our investigation come as a surprise. She once had to crawl off a train on her stomach.
The Disability Discrimination Act promised that all trains would be step-free by January the 1st, 2020. And every government has allowed derogations to that, which means that it's now going to be 2070. So, you know, in my lifetime in the UK, I won't be able to get on and off most trains on my own. All I want is the same miserable experience of commuting as everyone else. That's all.
It doesn't seem like too much to ask, does it? But unfortunately, I think we still have a long way to go.
And Emily joins me now. Well, Emily, all those issues were just from one morning's filming, but they're not unusual for you and your friends, are they?
Unfortunately not, Rebecca, no. I think transport is a real issue for disabled people. And when I was 18, I actually learned how to drive because transport was just so poor. So it's something that, you know, people with disabilities and people in wheelchairs, it's something they come across more often than not, unfortunately.
Now, your face said it all when Tanni Gray-Thompson said it's now going to be 2070 until all trains are fitted with ramps. That's an awfully long time to wait.
It is. I mean, Tanni Gray-Thompson said, you know, during her lifetime, she wouldn't be able to get on a train unaided. I actually worked it out, and I'll be 72 by the time the changes are implemented, which is absolutely crazy. Hopefully, I would have liked to have seen some change, you know, since I was younger and a teenager. But we're just not getting there yet, unfortunately.
So what do you want to see happen now?
I think, to be honest, I just want to see more mindfulness about disability, and a little change can make a huge difference. You know, just having special assistants turning up is the first step, really. So there's always something that could be done.
And what's your reaction when people say the money isn't there to make these changes?
Of course, I understand that it is a huge cost to change trains and buses and things like that. But it's about people's, you know, it's about their everyday lives, and it's about having equal opportunity to live in our lives and having, yeah, just that equal opportunity to just getting on a bus, getting on a train and doing what we do.
And you feel it's very important for you to use your voice to highlight this issue, don't you?
100%, Rebecca, yes. It's really important because I have a voice that I can use to speak up for those who may not be able to do that. So yes, I will keep on talking.
Emily, thank you very much for coming in and talking to us this evening.
Thank you.
And you can see more on Emily's story on X-Ray on BBC iPlayer. Now, in September 1939, 4-year-old Joyce Cox was abducted on her way home from her aunt's house in Cardiff. Her body was found by a railway line the next day. The last person to see her before she was murdered has now spoken publicly about it for the first time in 84 years. Joyce's cousin Alan, who was 5 at the time, has told the BBC Wales true crime series Darkland Hunting the Killers that he felt relieved talking about it after so long. Owain Evans reports.
Joyce Cox, seen here with her cousin Alan, was days away from her 5th birthday when she was abducted on her way home from her aunt's house in Whitchurch, Cardiff. Apart from her murderer, Alan was the last person to see her alive. He's broken an 84-year silence to talk to BBC Wales's true crime series Darklands Hunting the Killers.
And she came up the lane at the back of our house, and I walked to the end of the lane, which was at the back of us, until I could see her as far as she could go. And just we both waved to each other, and that was it.
And how far away was she from her own house when you said goodbye?
Less than 50 yards.
Joyce's body was found by a nearby railway line the following day. The original police investigation lasted 3 years. 1,700 people were interviewed and 850 statements were taken, but nobody was ever charged. The family always suspected a neighbour.
He'd hit you, and 3 years later he was started to molest one of my sister, but she got away.
Alan's younger brother Terry has been campaigning for years to identify the killer. He says his mother told the police about the neighbour.
I do remember him vividly, and hence that
She did, made comments to the investigation officers at the time. Unfortunately, made it quite clear that he was too old and nothing, as far as I know, was done.
South Wales Police carried out 3 case reviews, the last of which was in 2017. It says there were no further lines of inquiry nor evidence to work with. The police say there were grounds to suspect a man identified at the time was responsible, but due to no direct evidence, he was never charged. He died in the 1950s. The family hope that whilst the story is in the public eye, there's still a chance that new information will help identify Joyce's killer.
And you can see more on that story on Darkland Hunting the Killers tonight at 10:40 on BBC One Wales. The highs and lows of Welsh football over the years is something many of us will be familiar with. Now, an opportunity to celebrate that with a National Football Museum have moved a step closer, with plans receiving a boost of more than £5 million. The Welsh Government says the venue in Wrexham would celebrate the sport's heritage, as Matthew Richards reports.
Even if you don't follow the so-called beautiful game, you can't fail to have noticed how its prominence in Wales has risen in recent years. From World Cup qualification for Wales's men to a playoff final for the women's side, and the huge interest in Wrexham's fortunes. So a National Football Museum couldn't come at a better time. And £5.4 million of Welsh Government money will help these artists' impressions become a reality.
Football is on a bit of a high tide at the moment in Wales. I know we didn't have a particularly good World Cup, but, since 2016, the Euros in 2016, the Euros 2020, and then the World Cup, Wales has done brilliantly on the international stage, and we're starting to see some of our club teams doing really well as well. And Wrexham, everybody's keeping everything crossed for Wrexham this season that they finally get back into the league.
Described as a museum of two halves, Wrexham Museum will expand to incorporate the new space dedicated to all things football, and it'll reflect both the historic and modern face of the game across Wales.
It's a museum in Wrexham, but in the sense of football, it's about any football that is played in Wales or any football played by Welsh people outside Wales. All that's going to be covered in it, and all aspects of the game, amateurs, professionals, men and women, different nationalities, different minorities.
Wrexham Museum already has exhibitions sitting side by side, spanning everything from 2,500 years BC to modern Welsh football, proving that the sport isn't just something saved for the weekends, it's very much part of the fabric of everyday life here in Wales. Their appetites whetted by this current exhibition of Wales shirts, Tom and Elspeth can't wait till the new museum opens its doors.
We've got a son, mad keen, grandsons, granddaughters, son-in-law, all big Wrexham supporters, and also mad keen for the museum to be here.
This shop in Bala sells anything a Welsh football fan could possibly want. Staff and customers say there's lots of rich history for the museum to choose from.
I think they'll have to mention the 1958 World Cup because, that's a very important year for me personally. That's where I got the inspiration for what I do. But obviously, the World Cup just been, so plenty of memorabilia from that.
Well, I think it's great to have a place where everybody can go and learn about the history and about the sport itself and really feel a sense of pride about the Welsh culture.
The museum should be completed in the next 3 years, and it's hoped it'll kick off a tourism boom for sport lovers from across Wales and beyond.
Staying with football, and Wales have finished their Pinatar Cup campaign with a 1-1 draw with Scotland. Kerry Holland grabbed Wales's equaliser just before half-time after Scotland took an early lead. Wales top the Pinatar Cup table for now, but Iceland just need a point against the Philippines later to lift the trophy thanks to their better goal difference. Wales's goal scorer says the trip to Spain has been worthwhile.
Yeah, really good. I think we've played 3 different opposition. I think the Philippines offered a different challenge and Iceland offered a different challenge for today. So I think, in terms of that, it's been 3 positive games in terms of our learning, and it's just all about developing as a team leading up to the Nations League.
And there's plenty of football happening elsewhere this evening. In the Championship, Swansea City hosts Stoke City. Newport County are at Hartlepool in League 2. And Wrexham continue their promotion push in the National League. Scunthorpe are the visitors at the racecourse this evening. Well, let's get the weather forecast now. Derek, some colder weather on the way.
Yes, Rebecca, it is going to turn a bit colder over the next few days with a mixture of sunshine and showers, and cold enough on some of the hills and mountains for a little bit of snow. Now, in Solva in Pembrokeshire today, there's been more low clouds, making it grey and a little bit gloomy. Brighter, though, in parts of Powys and the north. Some blue sky and sunshine in Llanfihangel, Nant Mellan. And in the sunnier spots in mid and north Wales, temperatures have been above average, spring-like even, 12 Celsius in Llanfairfechan and in Welshpool. That's 54 Fahrenheit. Tonight, more low clouds, some mist and hill fog, spots of drizzle as well. Breezy on the Llŷn Peninsula, with a band of rain spreading its way eastwards after midnight. Temperatures at 6s and 7s, so no frost. Now, tomorrow then, a cold front will move its way eastwards across the UK. Behind that front, colder northwesterly winds and polar maritime air. So tomorrow morning then, it's a cloudy picture with some patchy outbreaks of rain, but that rain will gradually clear, and through the afternoon it will brighten up with a mixture of sunshine and scattered showers, a little snow on the mountains. So a colder day to come tomorrow, top temperatures between 6 and 10 Celsius with a northwesterly breeze. Now, tomorrow evening and overnight, a band of showers will spread southwards. Some of these wintry could give a little bit of snow on some of the hills and mountains, and it will be a colder night tomorrow night with a north to northeasterly breeze. Temperatures in Brecon falling close to freezing. So a cold start to Thursday, but a decent day in prospect, dry and bright. We'll all see some sunshine and temperatures in single figures, around the seasonal average for this time of year, with a light to moderate breeze from the north and northwest. Not quite so nice on Friday, cloudier skies with a few light showers, temperatures ranging from 7 Celsius in Denbigh, 9 in Caerphilly. Now, over the weekend, high pressure is going to take control, centred over Scotland, and that means dry and settled conditions, variable amounts of clouds, but some sunshine likely. Temperatures on the chilly sides with an east and northeasterly breeze, and there could be a bit of frost in places overnight. So colder weather on the way. Rebecca.
Derek, thank you. A reminder of our top story. Rugby and Wales have postponed naming their team to face England in the Six Nations this weekend, with the prospect of a players' strike still on the cards. Head coach Warren Gatland said he delayed the announcement due to the uncertainty, but hopes to name the side on Thursday. The Wales players have set a deadline of tomorrow for the issues around contracts to be resolved.
What the players were asking for, I think, was definitely reasonable in terms of, and there needed to be some negotiation. It's like everything, it's, you know, you've got to find some middle ground, and I think hopefully that, like I said, that the discussions today, there'll be some middle ground where the players are happy with, and the professional game board will be also happy with, you know, some of the concessions that they make as well.
And that's Wales Today. We'll be back with our late bulletin after the news at 10. Have a good evening. Goodbye. Hwyl fawr.